And we're going to go to Access Services. Now we all know that Access Services is for 2013. Good to notice these values are fairly similar. We right off the bat have our session management. What's our maximum request duration, maximum session per users, maximum sessions per anonymous user, our cache timeout, our query timeout, and the one we want the most. What is our memory utilization? Again, 50%. We want to get into these guys and kind of restrict them down. Without killing our users, we want to make sure that these are set up so that it doesn't hurt. So depending on what the memory is how we're going to set these up. Now Global Mantix has asked us to set these up so it doesn't hurt them at all. The catch here is we can't baseline out what they're utilizing in this environment. So we're leaving this at 50%. Remember I said I want the higher number. And I will watch this as users start coming on board. And then as I see that they're using more from one and less from another, I will start increasing and decreasing and setting hard values. So that's a good thing to note. And of course, we can actually set up a new application database server. Now that we're not going to be doing today. So let's click OK. All right, we've made it through Excel. We've made it through Access. That gives us one last one to go look at. Visio. We're going to start right off the bat with our global settings. So what is the maximum web drawing size? Well, in this case, we're going to allow it to go to 25. We have to remember that's 25 megs that we're actually going to be rendering for the user to see. That's a decent amount. However, if I set that lower, I'm really hurting our end users from being able to put in any larger Visios. I put that higher, and I could end up hurting the server because they're coming in with very large Visios that we should really want them to break up a little bit. So 25 is a really good mid number that allows us our first baseline to see exactly what we can do with it. Now we have minimum cache age. And what this is doing is saying that the web drawing will be cached in memory, in this case, for 5 minutes. What this allows us to do is create that, that frequent data refresh operation for users. But it also increases the CPU and memory usage. So what I'm doing is I'm not caching it for a longer period of time in memory, but I'm dropping it out and I'm refreshing it again. So if they keep going to this one over and over again, I'm refreshing it every 5 minutes, which means I've got to re-pull it back over, I've got to re-put it back in memory, I'm taking CPU and I'm taking memory usage over and over and over again. So this is a hard one to find that, magic number for ourselves, especially when end users aren't going to be doing the same thing from day to day. So let's continue on. What's our maximum cache age going to be? In this case, it's defaulted to 60 minutes. So is our recalc duration. So our recalc duration is set to 60 seconds before it recalculates what it's got in front of it. And last but not least, what's our maximum cache size? Now this is in megs. You notice right off the bat here, it's turning around and going, you get 5 gigs of disk space. So that's good, but is it enough? Well, again, depending on usage. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to turn around and we're going to increase that. We're going to double it up for right now. And remember what I was saying, we want to go higher and then we'll watch how the memory usage is doing, we'll watch how the disk caches are going, and we'll decrease as we need to. So we'll make sure that we've got that there. Now, last but not least, again, we have an unattended service account for our external data. Remember, our unattended service accounts are what we're going to be using in our secure store service to send the credentials. So in this case, we're not going to. We don't have a registered one yet, so we're going to leave this be. But it's good to note that it is here, and this is where we actually set up that portion. All right, let's save our changes. So the last part of it is our trusted data providers. And this is what we saw in Excel services as well. This allows us to set up, what type of providers can we get our information from. You'll notice we can do Excel web services, SharePoint lists, but then we have all the other ones as well. All of our SQL is there. You'll notice we've even got DB2. So we've got Oracle. We've got all these databases that we can access the information from as well. So there's some really good things that we've got here. And majority of this is what we're going to be using. Now, if you have something outside of, an Oracle server, IBM's DB2, SQL, all outside of all these different types of databases that are already preset, then you are going to have to create your own new trusted data provider. All right, let's just stop for a moment. Let's not click on anything. Let's not do anything. Let's pause before we finish off this lesson. We've gone through a lot. We went through Excel services, which, as you can see, not only have I talked about why it's the big boy, we can also see how much settings are inside of there and how we can take a look at deciding how to set each one of these pieces up so it doesn't hurt us. But we want to go large in the beginning, and we want to start bringing it back and hard coding it as we see fit. Now remember back to the other lessons before. The reason I'm reminding you of that is because Access also does a lot of memory, and so does Visio. The three of these together do a lot of memory, and they cache everything on the drive. So we need to start thinking about that in the real world, about using remote blob cache type of a setup for it. How are we going to balance these out? But on the exam, we talked a while ago about load balancing out these services. We need to remember that these three guys use the exact same amount of resources, system resources. So if we're load balancing out our services across our servers, and I've got multiple application servers, I will probably take the two lower hitting ones, and in most cases, that's Access and Visio, and put them onto one application server. And I'll take Excel because it's the big boy, and I will put it on another one. And that way they don't conflict. I'm basically separating my resources.